Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Catalog Management webinar. My name is Nick, and I will be doing the presentation with you today. Just like all of our previous webinars, everybody will be on mute, but if you do happen to have any questions at any point during our class, please feel free to go ahead and type that into the questions and answer sections in the Zoom panel. And at the end of the class, I will go through and answer any questions that may have come up. Also, at the end of the class, I will be sending out an email that's going to contain a document that covers everything that we're going to be going over in today's class. And should you happen to have any questions while going over that document, you can again reach out to our support department, and you can do that through either phone or email, and they will be happy to answer any of your questions. Again, today's class is on catalog management. So with Envisioneer, whenever we ship out a new version of the program, it's going to have a new comprehensive catalog of elements that's going to help you achieve your design goals very quickly. Every element that is in the catalog is completely customizable, and you can create new elements on the fly as well. In today's class, we're going to be looking at how to add, edit, and delete catalog elements. We're going to be looking at how to organize the elements within the catalog itself. We're also going to be looking at importing elements from one catalog to another. We're going to look at importing elements from the internet. So if you find something online that you want to bring in, you can do that. And then we're also going to be looking at how to save elements to the catalog. So let's go ahead and start with looking at how to add, edit, and delete elements within the catalog. So this is going to come about as the customizing of the catalog itself. So when you select a building tool in Envisioneer, the catalog panel on the right-hand side of the screen is going to display a wide selection of elements for you to insert. Elements are going to be organized into groups so that they can be found very easily while navigating the design that you're working with. Some groups have multiple subgroups for further organization. You can again add, edit, delete, and rename groups and even shift them around in the catalog. Each group, which is marked with a folder icon, contains a list of elements, and you can add, edit, and delete those elements to suit your design needs. The catalog also contains various libraries, such as the materials library and the textiles library. These libraries contain items and settings that you can choose while using certain tools in the software. So let's take a look at using the element manager. And this is where, again, we're going to be controlling the actual elements in the catalog. So now, again, the access for this is going to be up under File, Catalogs, and then under Catalogs, you're going to see Element Manager. Now, the Element Manager provides access to all of the elements in the catalog. It includes all of the tools you need to customize your groups and elements in that particular catalog. Now, this is going to be the catalog that was shipped with the Envisioneer version 17. So we're going to see some of the new walls that were created for the new version 17. And that is going to be the area that it opens up to first, is the walls portion of the catalog. Usually, whatever the last element you've used, that's where the catalog will open up. So if you are following along and you're doing this and yours is opening up somewhere else, don't be alarmed. It just remembers the last thing that you used, and that's where it's going to open from. What we're going to do is we're going to go up and we're going to select the cabinets option. So over on the left-hand side, we can see that there's a list of all the different element structure in this catalog. And it's broken down into alphabetical order. So if we're going to be looking for cabinets, we're going to scroll all the way up to find cabinets. Just a little quick tip in here. If you have multiple folders open and you just want to quickly close things down, you can simply right-click in that panel and you can select the Collapse All option, and it will close all the folders. And then you can very quickly scroll back up to where you need to be. And then you can click on whatever folder you want to use. We're going to go to Cabinets, and under the Cabinets option, we're just going to simply select on Cabinets, and we're going to right-click, and we're going to select Add Group. Now, when you select Add Group, it basically just creates a whole new folder, and it allows you to give that new group a name. we're going to give a name to this as custom cabinets. So we're just going to type in the name custom cabinets into that folder. And then we're going to simply select that folder, and then we're going to right click again, and we're going to select the add element option. Now, when you select the add element option, in this particular case, you're going to get a define element dialog, and it's going to ask you, how do you want to create this cabinet? Do you want to create the cabinets using the parametric cabinet creator within Envisioneer, or do you want to import a custom block? If you are importing a custom block, you would select the custom block option. And when you say OK, it's going to go through, it's going to ask you to find the actual block that you want to use. I'm just going to cancel that because I don't want to bring a block in. I'm going to create one from using the Envisioneer parametric option. So I'm going to say add element once again. We're going to select cabinets. And we're going to say OK. And what this will do is it will now open up the cabinets option. And we can see here that we have a cabinet being defined, and it is using just the parametric values. It has no textures assigned to it. It's using a default size. We have to go through and manually adjust this to be exactly what we want this cabinet to look like. So let's go through and do that. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to go through the actual properties of that cabinet itself. So as you can see here, the name right now is set to default. Well, if you want to give this new cabinet a name, you can type in the name if you want to, or you can simply select auto name, and it's going to automatically name that cabinet for you. I would go through and specify all of the parameters or the properties of that cabinet before I do the auto name, but you can go through and adjust however you feel is going to be best suited for you. So I want this cabinet to be 3 feet wide. It's going to be 3 feet high. It's going to have a depth of, let's just say 2 feet. And then I want my door spacing to be 1/2 inch. So we type in 1/2 inch. And then the height of my door. So how high do I want this to be? I like to give this, so that's going to be my drawer face. I like to give it a nice round number. So I'm going to say 8 inches. And so that'll give me my cabinet look. So I've adjusted the width, the height, and the depth. I've also adjusted the actual doors. Under leaf, you can go through and you can start to adjust how you want the leaves of these doors to look. So right now it's saying apply to, and it's saying door. So we're going to say we want it to be a raised panel. And we're going to say, well, I want that to just be a recessed door. I want the spacing to be 2 inches around. And I now want to do the same thing, but to my drawer face. Maybe I want my drawer face to be flat. Maybe I want it to be the exact same as the door, so I want it to be recessed. So we can, again, adjust the drawer to, again, not be a dado, but be recessed with a 2-inch spacing as well. So this is just controlling your rails and your styles for the door leaf. This is going to be like a typical shaker cabinet style that we're going to be creating right now. Once I have all of that created, I can now move on to the Details tab. Now, under the Details tab, this is where you can start to go through and adjust exactly how you want the counter to look. Do you want to show a backsplash? I'm going to say no backsplash on this one. I can adjust the nosing, the amount of shelves I want inside. Do I want to adjust the actual toe space? So I can adjust the depth and the height. And then I can also adjust the hardware. And by default, we have cylinder, box, and circle. I'm just going to leave mine at the cylinder option. So all very basic options right now, just basically going through and adjusting how we want this particular cabinet to look. The Appearance tab, you can go through and you can adjust how you want the appearance of this cabinet to look. So you can select each one of these. And I like to use the Control key to multiple select what I want. And I would just select everything that's going to have the same material. I would select each one of those. So I left click, I hold my Control key down, and then I select the other options. Under the material, I would just select a material that I want to use. And I'm just going to grab a color here, and we're just going to do cool white, and we'll say OK. For the counter, we're going to use a countertop. So we're just going to go up to, counters, and we should have countertop hard surface. And I'm just going to grab the Carrara marble, and we'll just apply that to the top. And then the same for the handles. Whatever material you want for your handles, you can again apply that to be used for all of the handle material in your design. So I'm going to use brass on that one, or bronze on that one. Now the line work tab controls how the element itself is going to look in a 2D plan view. So we want to make sure that we are again adjusting how we want this to be represented. I typically just select absolutely everything. So I'll start from the top, I'll hold my shift key down and I'll select everything. And then I will just go in and say, I want all of these to be on the cabinet layer. If I was using furniture, then it would be on the interior furniture layer and so on. This just again depicts how that element is going to look, not only in your 2D model view, but how it's going to look in 2D in your working drawing sheets. This controls the color, the line type, and the line weight. So you can again adjust these if you need to, but we've gone through and we've spent some time trying to set these up to what most office standards are. So you can again modify these if you need to, but these are just the layers as how it's going to be depicted in 2D. Then we have a quantity page where you can adjust how you want this to be quantified. And you can step through each of these, adjusting the phase, the category. If you want to give it a part number, you can adjust all of that from within here. The behavior tab is important because we do want to make sure that when we insert a cabinet, that it's going to snap correctly. And what I mean by that is I want this cabinet's back to snap up against the wall. So I want to make sure that the back of the element is what is selected. So that way this cabinet will always flip around and the back will snap to a wall for me. I don't have to manually rotate it around. Now that I have everything set up, I just click auto name, and here you can see it's now adjusted the cabinet for us to match what our parameters say. All I have to do now is simply say okay, and that new cabinet is now added into my catalog. Once that cabinet is added in, let's say later on you feel like you don't need that cabinet anymore, or you found an element in the catalog that you don't need, or a group you don't need, you can simply select the element, right-click, delete, and it will delete that element out. You can do the same for a group. So you can select a group, right-click, delete, and you can delete the entire group out of the catalog as well. So this is how you can customize a catalog to show exactly what you want in it. The catalogs that we send are pre-populated with a lot of information. You may not use some of that information. So if you want to pare your catalog down so it opens quicker, or if it's easier to navigate with less objects in it, then you can go through and adjust the catalog again to match how it's going to work best for you. Before doing anything like that, I always recommend saving a copy of the original catalog somewhere. So if you have a network drive, a USB drive, I always recommend keeping a backup of the original, just in case something happens to the catalog. That way you have something to fall back on. So again, always back up catalog before you start making any kind of adjustments or editing of the original. So we're going to click cancel on here. I don't want to save any changes to that. So you can see here, once I click cancel, it's going to restore it back to the way it was before we opened it. So that's, again, just going to remove any changes I may have made. And now what we're going to look at is the library manager. So we're going to go up to File, Catalogs, and this time, instead of Element Manager, we're going to go to Library Manager. Now, the library manager provides access to all of the libraries in the catalog. This is going to be the types of libraries which include your materials, your line styles, your text styles, dimension styles, labels, profiles, light sources, assemblies, and then several different framing libraries as well. And this might just take a second to load up here. But once it's loaded up, we're going to go through those individual libraries so that you can have an idea of what they control and how you can edit them. It's still loading, so let's give it a second. All right, so the library manager is now open. And as you can see, it's very similar in the way that it's set up, but we're only seeing just a panel. We're not going to see a bunch of properties for it. We're just seeing the actual elements or the materials themselves. Now, right now, we're seeing materials because under libraries, we are under materials. So you can see here, we're looking at all the different materials that you can adjust. And you can scroll through that list and you can see all the different materials. Again, these are just what is sent with the default catalog. You can, again, add to this, edit it, delete things out. Again, make it your own if you so see the need to. But under libraries, as you can see, we also have a material usages. Now, what this does is this controls the way a material can be used in the program. So right now we have things that are assigned to like a brick option. So when I want to apply brick, what can that brick be applied to? And in this case, we can apply brick to components. We can apply brick to exterior accessories. We can apply brick to HVAC elements, to pads, paths, retaining walls, stairs, and walls. If you want to add further things to this list, you can. So as an example, maybe I want to add brick to columns. I want to be able to show brick on a column. Then you can choose that option and it will assign the brick to allow to be assigned to an actual column. Once you say okay to that, it's set up and now that's a part that brick can now be assigned to a column. I will show you what that does if you don't have it assigned. So if I, as an example, go back in here and let's just turn it off of columns as an example. And let's say okay to that real quick. You may have seen this dialog pop up in your use of Envisioneer, and this is what controls that. So I'm just going to show you exactly what that is. So I'm just going to let that save for a quick moment. And if I drop in a column into my design here, just letting it save here, just give it a moment. I do apologize for this taking a little bit of extra time here. We're just going to let this go through and save. Now, depending on the size of the catalog and depending on the size of the catalog, it can take a couple minutes for this to load up. It's got to do all that saving, and it's basically just going through and writing everything. So this might take just a moment here, especially with Zoom being open. It could take a little bit longer. So let's give this a moment here. There we go. Okay, so if I drop in a column as an example, and let's just add in an 8-inch column here into the middle of my design. If I go into a 3D view, and if I try to apply the brick material to this column, okay, so that one worked. So let's go to a different material. So let's go into materials, and let's go down to fabric as an example. So if I wanted to apply fabric to, okay, that's not, Let's try this. Trying to find an example where I can apply fabric. It should be telling me it can't do that. Delete. Let's add in a set of stairs then. I might have to have that looked into. That should not be allowing me to do that. Okay, let's revisit that at a later time. So I'm just going to go back into the library manager and we'll open that back up. This should load up a little bit quicker now that we have it open already. So let's go back into libraries. And so we have the material usages and then we have material filters. And what the material filters do is it allows you to adjust what will be displayed with the materials with the usages indicated below. So how do you want things to be filtered out? So again, you can go through and adjust all of these different options. And again, as you go through this list, we have patterns, we have manufacturers, we have, again, under libraries, you can go through and take a look at all of these different library options. And you can add to these again, edit them, delete out things that you know you're not going to need. So we're just going to wait for that to load up here. There we go. And then under libraries, again, you can go through this list. You got textiles, dimension styles. The assemblies are also going to be in here. And then you have your building and all your different configurations can be adjusted from here as well. And then also your framing libraries. So your head sill jamb configurations, your intersections, your wall end conditions, your opening span tables, all of that can be adjusted from within here. And again, if you're using Building Essentials or Construction Suite, you will see this option. I'm just going to click cancel. Again, I don't want to save anything to that catalog. So I'm just going to restore that back to its original. And then I'm just going to go back into a 2D plan view. So now we're going to be taking a look at organizing the catalog. So not only can you add, edit, and delete groups and elements in the catalog, but you can also reorganize the catalog to suit your needs. I'm going to open up the element manager again, just while I'm going through this. So as you add groups and elements, the catalog can become disorganized. You may want to reorganize elements into new groups or within their own group, or shift groups up and down in the list. In larger offices where multiple designers are working with the same catalog, the organization of the catalog is going to be critical. Creating an arrangement that can be easily navigated and that is clear of irrelevant content will go a long way in streamlining the design process and preventing any kind of discrepancies. So let's create another new group in our catalog. So let's go ahead, we're just going to go collapse all. And then under walls, I'm going to go in and I'm going to create a new group called steel walls. So let's go in and we're going to select on walls. And then I'm going to right click and I'm going to say add group. In this add group, I'm going to name it steel walls or steel frame. Let's do that. Steel frames. So what I've created again is just a simple group. Now, what I want to do is I want to separate the steel framing that I have in the catalog already, but I want it to be in a new folder. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go to our interior frame partition, and you're going to see that there is a steel framed option in here. And what I'm just going to do here is I'm just going to grab the 3 5/8. I'm going to left click and hold on it. So right now my mouse button, my left mouse button is selected and I'm holding it down. and I'm just dragging it from one folder to another. So again, select the element by left clicking on it, left click and hold, move your mouse down and drop it into the folder. You can also reorganize within the folder. So if I want the 6-inch to be below the 3 5/8, then I can just simply select it and drag it down. If I want the 3 5/8 to be below, I just bring it down so that it sits on top and it will flip them around. So you can very easily change where elements are within that catalog structure as well. So you can move elements around so that they fit exactly where you want them to be. You will only be able to move elements within a like element tree. So I can't take a steel wall and drop it into a cabinet folder. It just won't work. It will only work inside of the element tree that you're working with. So walls will be allowed to be moved within walls, cabinets within cabinets, and so on. I'm just going to move this guy back to the steel frame folder. So I don't want to mess up my catalog here. So we're just going to go back and drop these guys back in. And then I'm just going to make sure that the 6-inch is below the 3 5/8. I'm just going to delete out that steel frame folder. And we're back to the way it was before. So let's talk about importing elements from other catalogs. Since we have just released version 17, we are getting a lot of these questions, and this may be very handy for you. So if you have been working with version 15, version 16, and you've added a lot to your catalog, and you want to bring that information over, and you also want to take advantage of all of the adjustments that we've made to the Envisioneer 17 catalog, your best option is to import the elements from your old catalog into your new catalog. So I'm going to change up the order of the webinar just a little bit here, and we're going to look at exporting from a catalog first, and then we'll look at importing. So let's say I have created a bunch of elements in version 16 and it's saved to my catalog. What I want to do is I want to be able to export those out so that I can bring them into version 17. So all I have to do there is I just need to go in and I need to define what elements that I want to bring out. So what I would do here is I would go up and in version 16, so right now we're in version 17, but if I was in version 16, I would go to File, BIM File, and I would select Export. Now, you're not exporting the entire catalog. What you're going to do is you're going to take a look at the dialog that you see here. It's set up in a way that makes it easy for you to understand how we're working with this catalog. So we're taking from the version, again, you're going to imagine this says version 16. So we're taking elements from Envisioneer 16 master catalog, and we are transferring it, and you can see the little arrow pointing in this direction. That means you're taking from here and you're putting it in here. What you're going to do is you're going to select the elements. So you're going to open up the element tree and you're going to go, I have added in a bunch of, let's just say, interior furniture. So you're going to go through and you're going to add in a bunch of interior furniture. So you're going to select wherever that interior furniture is, you're going to select it, and then you're going to transfer it over, and it's going to create a BIM file. So I'm going to grab the shelving option, and I'm going to say transfer. What that does is it takes all of that information. So again, we're going to see now underneath elements, under interior furniture, under living room furniture, I now see everything that was under shelving. And it only brings that information. It's not bringing over walls or cabinets or anything. It's just bringing in the elements that I select. I selected the entire folder, so it brought in every single element. Let's say I only want one element. I only want this Adwin lounge chair. So instead of selecting the entire folder of chairs, which would bring everything over, I select the individual element, I hit transfer, and now I'm going to see under interior furniture, under living room furniture, I'm going to see shelving, all the shelves because I selected the shelving folder. But under seating and under chairs, I'm only going to see the one chair. So be very picky as to what you want to bring over and what you don't want to bring over. And then once you're finished with that, you can actually save this as a BIM file. Now, before I move on from here, I also want to reiterate, not only does it bring over the actual elements, you're also going to see the libraries option. So it's also going to bring over all of the materials that are being used, all of the patterns that are being used, all of the line types, line weights, material usages, everything that is a part of that library of that element is also going to be included. Once you're happy with all of that, all you have to simply do is say, okay. And it's then going to ask you to save it. So you're going to give it a name and you're going to save it somewhere on your desktop or on your computer. We're just going to say webinar. And I'm just going to say save. So that now saves that catalog that I'm using from version 16. And then in Envisioneer 17, I would go back into my element manager and I would go file, BIM file, and I would say import. I would then select that BIM file, which we said was webinar. I would say open. And now when you take a look at the dialog, now you're going to see, again, same kind of file structure. You're going to see the same kind of dialog, but we're seeing the BIM file webinar.bim. We can see the transfer now has the arrow pointing in the opposite direction. So now we are taking from the webinar file and we're importing it into our new Envisioneer 17 catalog. When you do this, you again have a couple of options here. You can go through and you can select the individual elements. So if you just want to grab just the chair, or sorry, just the 3-layer shelf, you can transfer over just that one element. If you've done this meticulously and you've actually gone through and you selected exactly what you wanted from version 16 and you want all of that in version 17, just simply select document and hit transfer. And what that will do is it will take everything within that BIM file and transfer it over. So you don't need to do each one individually. Just select document, transfer, and then it will transfer everything over. I'm not going to do that because I already have those elements in here, so I'm not going to make that adjustment. But that's how you can take elements from version 16 or version 15 and import them into any new catalog that you may want to work with. I'm just going to click cancel on that dialog again. I don't want to save any changes to my catalog here. And the next thing we're going to be looking at is importing blocks that you can find on the internet. So the internet is a great resource for objects such as furniture and appliances. You can import blocks that are in DWG, DXF, 3ds, or SKP format into Envisioneer. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to find an actual element. So I'm going to go up to my internet, and I have an account on the 3D warehouse, and I'm just going to go up and I'm going to say sofa. So I'm going to do a search for a sofa on 3D warehouse. And as you can see here, there are a bunch of different options that I can use. Let's grab something that isn't quite as huge in size. And you can see the sizes here. Let's just grab something that is reasonable in size. Now let's grab this one here. So I'm just going to say I want this sofa, and I'm going to say download. I want to save it as an SKP file, so a SketchUp file. And it's going to save that to my downloads folder. Now, all I have to do now is I can go up and I can import this in a couple of different ways. I can go up to File, Catalogs, and I can go to the Element Manager, and I can add this in right to the actual catalog. I'm going to show you how to do this without having to go into the catalog. So we're going to go File, Import, and we're going to select Object Wizard. I'm going to give it a name, and we're just going to call this Webinar Sofa. Where do I want this to be stored? What is it that I'm actually inserting? Well, this is a sofa, so this is going to be interior furniture. So I'm going to use this drop-down list. I'm going to select the interior furnitures folder. Since I'm doing interior, it's going to insert it on the location. If I did exterior furniture, I not only have an insert on location option, but I also have an insert on terrain option. Since it's an exterior object, it could be on the terrain, or I can insert it on the location. So you have those two different options again, depending on what you're inserting. We are going to switch that back to interior furniture. And then we're just going to simply select the select button. And then on my downloads folder, we're going to grab, and we're going to make sure we are in SKP format. And we're just going to grab that sofa. And we're going to say, OK. Now, in Envisioneer, you're going to get this message. And essentially what this message is saying, and when you're using SketchUp blocks, pardon me, when you bring in a SketchUp block in Envisioneer, you're going to get this message. And it's essentially just saying, do you want to force the import of the SketchUp file to be single-sided? SketchUp blocks have an interior face and an external face. So an inner face and an outer face. We just want to make sure that we are importing it as a single-sided object. That's why it's recommended, because it will reduce the size of the file by half, essentially, because you're going to have double the faces. So we're going to say, yes, I want to reduce this to be single-sided. When you do that, just take a quick look at it. If you start to move around and you notice that you're seeing through the object, then that means the element wasn't created very well. So some of the faces may be reversed. So you will have to actually import it as a double-sided object. So that way you can see the true nature of the block itself. This one looks good. So we're going to say next. I like to describe this as the blue being a wall and the red being the floor. So how do you want this object to be oriented? I just want to make sure that the feet are touching the floor and the back of the couch is going towards a wall. Then I say next. Now we can control the component visibility in 3D. Is there anything in here that you do not want to see in 3D? You can also take this opportunity to rename any of these. So you can double click in here and you can change the names of all of these to be whatever you want. So here we can see suede green. Well, that's actually going to be cushion. So I'm going to change that to be cushion. Metal silver is going to be the legs. So I'm going to change that to be legs. And then the wood cherry, I believe that looks like it's some kind of foot on the legs. So we're just going to call this feet. Too many E's. There you go. Feet. And these objects here are a part of the SketchUp block, so you can't really change the name of them. I would just leave them as they are. And then you can say next. Now, we don't have a 2D plan view with this. So what I would do here is you can just use the outline option and just say add, and then just call it 2D plan view. That's going to give you an actual plan view in 2D of what that looks like. You don't have to use outline. You can also use the slice tool, and then you can actually cut a slice through the chair, and you can do multiple slices if you want to. I just typically use an outline. If it's going to work that way, I just do that. And then I say next, and then finish. And now attached to my cursor is that new sofa. And when I go into a 3D view, I'm going to see that sofa. I'm going to see all the materials that came with it, and it's now in my drawing. Now, I did it this way so that we can take a look at some of the different options that you have here. So once you've inserted this object using the object wizard, so we went into File, Import, again, we went to Object Wizard. This is not a part of the catalog. This is just a part of the document. So when I go in here and I take a look at it, it's again just a part of the document. I can change anything I want in here, and I do recommend making sure you change anything you want in here before you save it to the catalog. And you can go through, you can change the size if you want to, the appearance, you can adjust. Maybe you don't want to use the suede green anymore. You want to use an actual texture from Envisioneer. So you can go down to the fabric folder, and you can say, let's just make this a nice, we'll do grayish white color sofa. And we'll make sure that the mapping here is set to auto. We'll say okay. And then we'll do the same for the legs. Instead of using the metal shiny from SketchUp, we're going to use our own material. And we have a nice chrome look that I want to apply to this. And again, we're going to go to mapping. Anything that is mapped from SketchUp is going to be set to predefined. If it's using the material from SketchUp, then leave it at predefined. If you're going to change it to auto as well, and that will just help clean up that material so it maps a little bit better. And then the same with the feet. We're going to change that from wood cherry original. I'm going to go down to, we'll just do cabinet mantle. Let's just do cherry here, and we'll say okay. And then again, mapping from predefined to auto and say okay. And again, now you can see all of the new materials have been applied to it. And when we say okay, we're going to change the line work too, pardon me. We'll make sure that this is all set to interior furniture. And then again, quantities, you can set up your quantities to use what you want. Behavior, we want this to be, again, the back. I want the back of the sofa to be up against the wall. Say okay. And now that we've set it up the way that we want, we can go to File, Catalogs, and we can say Save Element to Catalog. I can then click on the sofa, and it's going to ask you, would you like to save webinar sofa to the catalog? Yes. Would you like to save any other elements? So if you've added in multiple elements, you can do this all in one shot, and you can select each one of them. If not, simply say no. It's then going to give you the Save in Catalog. Please wait message. And if you remember when we imported this object in, I defined it as an interior furniture object. So now when I go to interiors and I select interior furniture, I'm going to have a new webinar sofa in my catalog. It's going to be under a root node option. So we'll just go back in, but here you can see it's now added in. We're going to go back to our element manager here. And in the element manager, I'm going to say, well, this is a sofa. So I want to add it to the sofas folder. So I'm just going to take this webinar sofa, left click and hold, and I'm going to bring this guy all the way up so that it sits at the top of my list because I'm going to use this sofa quite a bit. And then I'm just going to make sure I delete out the root node group, and I can say yes to that. Alternatively, if you have the same SketchUp file saved on your computer somewhere, so I did it through the import object wizard, you can also simply go into the element manager, add elements, and then you can say, I want to insert a custom block. You can say, okay, find that same sofa. This one we're going to name, again, we're going to make sure it's single-sided. You're basically going to follow the exact same steps like we did in the importing options. But what we're going to do now is it's going to be a part of the catalog by default. So we're going to give it a name. We're going to call it Webinar Sofa 2. We're going to adjust all of the appearance and everything in this first step. So you don't have to add it in and then adjust it. We're able to adjust it all within this one import. So there's a couple of ways of importing these objects into the catalog. It all really depends on what's going to work best and easiest for you. I'm just going to click cancel on there. And we're going to say cancel because I'm just going to revert that catalog back to its original state. So that covers everything that I wanted to discuss in today's class about catalog management. So I'm just going to go over a quick review. I have seen a couple of questions come in, so I will get to those questions in just a moment. So just to review, the catalog that ships with Envisioneer is just a starting point in your design endeavors. You can control the catalog's organization as well as its content to suit your design needs. The element manager is the key tool in organizing and customizing your building elements. The library manager is the key tool in customizing items such as your materials and your textiles. You can add, edit, and remove groups and move them around within the catalog itself. Elements have numerous properties that you can edit to create customized elements. You can also transfer content from one catalog to another using a BIM file. You can import DWG, DXF, 3ds, and SKP files into your catalog as well. And if you've edited an inserted element into your drawing, you can save that element to your catalog using the Save Element to Catalogs tool. So I'm just going to go back into a 2D plan view here, and I'm going to go ahead and open up the questions and answers section. Do you guys have Sherman-Williams paint? Yes, I do believe there is a Sherman-Williams paint option on our BIM files. You can use that if you want to. There is also the ability for you to go through, and I know Sherman-Williams gives you color codes, so like RGB values. You can find those and you can actually add those in yourself. So what I would do there is if I was trying to create a new paint color for Sherman-Williams, and let's just do a quick look here. So I'm going to go Sherman-Williams. Yeah, Sherman-Williams. Accept all. View all colors. I believe they have a color code. So you can basically like select a color and view details. And what this will give you is it will give you the actual color code. So similar color, we want this to be, where is it? Details, right here. So you got your RGB value. So 227, 146, 161. So what you can do in Envisioneer is underneath libraries, materials. I don't have I'm just going to put this under my bare paint color here, for example. So we're going to go add material. And instead of a texture, I'm going to use a color. And what we're going to do here is we're going to go into here. And then where it shows RGB, that's what this stands for, red, green, blue, you would enter in those values. So this is 227. We're going to go 227. And then we're going to go 146, 161, 146, 161. And what that will do is it will give you the exact color code based off of that texture. And then we're just going to say, okay. Now the color name is Jaipur Pink. So we're going to change the name to be Jaipur Pink. And now I can save that to my actual catalog. So while you have the ability to import BIM file objects, you can also just go to the Sherman-Williams website, find the colors that you're going to use most often that you find are more on trend with what you're designing, and you can create your own. I would not recommend, especially for paints, do not find an actual texture. Use the RGB values. They're going to be more accurate. Okay, so that answers that question. Next one, window top and bottom sashes should be customizable individually to allow different panes, top sash and bottom sash. I can add that in as a wish list item. Right now, whatever you do to one window, it's going to do it to both the bottom and the top. So there isn't an option right now to do that unless you add in a highlight to a window. You might be able to do it that way. I haven't tested that. I just thought of that. So let's just check that and see. We'll restore the catalog back. Let's add in a couple of walls. We'll add in a window. Let's just do a casement window for right now, like so. So you want the window to have a top sash and a bottom sash of different material or different panes. So let's make this bottom one, and we'll do a window height of, let's just say 2'6". And I want this to have panes of 2 and 2. And then I want to go to lights. We're going to add in a highlight. And we're going to make that use as the same as the window. I want it to be 1 pane. And let's change that to be 3 and 2. So you do something like this. We'll make this window also 2 feet. We'll make the basic window also 2 feet. We'll do rendered outline, so you can see something like that. Now this vertical separator, you can have that included. So under details, it's going to show up here. So we can adjust that so that's the same depth as everything else. You can see it should be 2.5. So we just go 2.5, and that should adjust the actual size. Or maybe it's this one here. So yeah, sorry, transom for lights. Make that 2.5 as well. So you get something like that. That's going to be the workaround for right now. There's really no way for us to adjust it based off of the upper and the lower within the same window structure. But I can add that in as a wish list item. But for now, add it in as a highlight, and then you can adjust it as needed. Now, we'll have to see how this looks in a 3D view. I just need to see if I need to elevate this window down too. Where is that window? There it is. So I will need to also elevate that window up or down because I added in as a highlight. So we're basically going to take away whatever the height of the window is. So we went 2 feet, so that's going to be 4'8", and then it will change the height of that window for us. So not exactly what you're looking for, but at least it's a workaround for right now so that you can see the different sashes in the upper and lower windows. Is there a list of all manufacturers with items that can be imported? The list of manufacturers is going to be in the library manager, and you'll see all the manufacturers that are in there already. If you want to add your own in, you can definitely add in your own manufacturer's information. That's not a problem. Does the software know what you have added versus what came with the system so that you can all can be selected automatically from version to version? No. It does not distinguish between what was original and what was added. You'll need to understand or remember or make notes of what you've added to the catalog. There's really no way for us to know that information. Okay, so there was one thing I wanted to just double check here, and that was the material applicator. Now, I think I know why it was doing that, and I think it's because I had already turned off the option to do that, and I don't know if there's a way to turn that back on or off. So I'll look into that. I do believe I have already turned that option off. Let me see, file, catalogs, library manager. Under libraries, material usage. Material filters. Yeah, I don't see a way to turn that on or off. So that was something I must have done when I first opened up version 17. So when you go to apply a texture to an object that it should not be allowed to be applied to, there is a message that pops up saying, do you really want to apply this texture to this element? And you can say yes or no to that. There's also a checkbox that says, do not display this error or do not display this message again. I believe I selected that object or that option since I've installed version 17. So that's why I was able to apply fabric to stairs and all that stuff. You should see that actual message pop up. And if you are seeing it, then this is where you can control how things are being assigned. I don't know if there is actually a way to turn that back on or off. I'm not seeing it anywhere in here for me to disable that again. So again, if you are seeing that message pop up, then it's because whatever you're trying to apply, be it brick to a column or something along those lines, it's just not set up in here. So go to your libraries, go to your material usages, go into the element that you're trying to apply. So if you're trying to apply brick to a column, just make sure that columns is selected in here. And then say, okay, if you're trying to apply fabric to a wall, maybe you want to show fabric on walls, then just make sure you apply the option for fabric to be allowed on walls. And then anytime you go to apply that material, it will apply it to the correct object. And I'm just going to click cancel and cancel on there. So that again covers everything that I wanted to talk about. I'm not seeing any other questions, so I'm just going to pause here for just a moment to see if anybody has any questions or any follow-up questions. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the class, I will be sending out an email that will contain a document that covers everything that we've talked about. Should you happen to have any questions while going over that document, again, please don't hesitate. You can reach out to our support department and they will be happy to answer any of your questions. Perfect. Well, there doesn't appear to be any other questions, so I do want to thank everybody for attending today. I do look forward to speaking with you all again very soon. Thank you very much, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day.